Hello, everyone. Today's guest is the founder and CEO of Fundingo, a loan management platform helping alternative lenders close deals faster and manage risks smarter. Since 2013, he's built a company trusted by top SBA lenders and major Canadian banks, earning a spot on the Inc. 5000 list along the way. Please welcome Henry Abanayo.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Well, Henry, we've got a lot to cover today, so let's just jump right into it. I looked a little bit into your background, and I noticed that you went from Salesforce consulting into financial services, and then now you're at Fundingo. What was the moment that you knew that this was the right move for you?
Absolutely. I'd love to give that background. So I actually come from the lending space, and in the lending space, we saw the pain points of having broken systems, especially for alternative lenders, which is where I had my experience as an underwriter and a broker manager, and really saw the day-to-day impacts of that to the point that I realized technology was missing piece. It wasn't demand. It wasn't market. It was just a lack of the right technology to be able to automate what the humans were doing. And when we put that in, it made like real time, real world Monday morning impact that just inspired me. And from there, launched Cloud My Biz. That was a consulting firm, helped over 100 alternative lenders implement their digital experience. And in that experience of doing those consulting engagements, we realized the market really was looking for a tool, a fit for purpose tool to be able to manage the whole lending operations under a nice single source of truth and really be able to remove friction from the process and not have to, build it bespoke with a consulting firm each time, but be able to take, the best of breed and put it in a tool. And that's where we built Fundingo to solve for that, originally as a product that we sold to our consulting clients. But eventually we ended up pivoting to where we've turned the whole Cloud My Biz operations into a SaaS company, which is what is Fundingo today. And we focus just on lenders to implement their digital experience using the Fundingo suite, which provides exactly that, a fit for purpose tool to manage credit risk more efficiently.
Awesome. So Henry, did you have a background in SaaS at all before this? And I know you said you have the consultancy, but did you study engineering or anything like that? Or was it just something that materialized from need that you just mentioned?
Yeah, no, the funny thing is that I don't have any background in SaaS before I started in the lending industry. And I got my experience in lending. In fact, my boss at the time, we had a lending firm that was growing very quickly, walked in and said, I heard about Salesforce, got to look into it. And I just got very interested in that. And over the weekend, I plowed myself into the online training. And back then, this was 2008. There was, it wasn't what you have today, but it was right when Salesforce was becoming big. And I realized, wow, we can build our own page to be able to track our applications, no longer needing Excel. And within a few days, we had an application built out in Salesforce. And from there was just a journey of like a sponge, learning Salesforce, learning general technologies, learning, and I pretty much learned it at the lending company and continue till today. So, it's an interesting journey. It wasn't from a technology at college or info tech. In fact, I studied rabbinic studies in college, and having the practical application. So when I was studying the technology, either at night or whatever it was, I was applying it right away. And I feel that that's the best way to learn. And that's how I got into it.
It's interesting. I've heard, ask my guests this question pretty much right off the bat. And it's not a linear path. It's always something that, you're taking a step here, a step there. And, you may completely end up in a different direction, like you had mentioned, your background. So that's fascinating. So you just saw a need and you were interested and you're like a sponge and let's just do this.
If I could add, I had 2 kids at the time, young babies at home. And when I had to leave my house on Sunday morning at 7 a.m. to go to the office and catch up on reviewing loan applications and PDFs and printouts for a couple hours in a dark office in Woodland Hills, I knew that something had to change. So the technology became a very big passion, not just because of technology, but also because it was providing immediate fixes to a problem.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's fascinating. It's, again, like I said, different people, different stories, but it all comes back to the to the same thing. So thanks for sharing that. Thanks for sharing that,
Absolutely.
Henry. So let's move on here. So walk us through what you guys do at Funding. I know you do alternative lending, and I've seen on your website, I think you have underwriting, you have servicing, and then there's another component, and it eludes me now. But you actually have three components to your model, from what I can understand. So can you walk us through basically, what a day in the life at Fundingo is like, what you guys do, who you service, that
Absolutely.
type of thing?
Yeah, let's take it a step back as a borrower, right? And I think our audience and everyone has experienced some level of getting a loan or financing, right? You apply, you get a decision if you're approved or declined. You get the funding, and now you have to pay it back. That's really what Fundingo services on the other side of that for the lending company. Now uses Fundingo to manage that loan application process through a digital loan application experience. It then has a process to be able to review the inputs and the documents and be able to make a decision, yes or no, and are you going to get approved or decline? And if approved, for how much? It generates those loan documents and allows the money to actually get transferred between the lender to the borrower, and then collecting that money back and tracking the entire process of the collections of the loan. So Fundingo has three modules, but it really is there to service that entire loan life cycle. And when we're talking about our lenders that we work with lenders that they're typically running an interesting or complex loan product. It won't be for your residential, typical owner-occupied home where you're going to get a mortgage to buy a house. It's your fix and flip lender. It's your small business lender or case financing or any type of complex financing that requires, a workflow, interesting tracking, fees to be collected, investors to be paid. And you can't just use like a quick off-the-shelf software to do that. You need something more robust. Fundingo comes in and is a great fit for that.
Excellent. Well, when you were talking about that, origination is the thing I missed in the original, the big three. But so you were talking about that, like traditional mortgage, right? So I've bought a house in, like, say, Arizona, and I bought it in 2005, and immediately within 6 months, my loan was purchased by another, I guess, a servicing company. So it changed hands. I got notification, I think maybe 2 or 3 times back then. So I think maybe the regulations have changed since, 2007, 2008 timeframe. But with these loans, do they typically stay in the same place, so to speak, or are these commoditized or are traded openly? Yeah, I'm just curious.
Some
Yeah.
some are commoditized and traded and sold off within quick as an hour to 60 days from when the loan is purchased and sometimes later. But majority of our loans are usually held by the originator and then serviced through the duration of the loans. The one thing you mentioned is regulated. It's very interesting because we're not typically dealing with consumer loans. It's more commercial loans to businesses and enterprises. They're not regulated. There's some regulation, but much lighter regulated than, what you would handle with a residential mortgage. So but when you describe that experience, we have a software that the servicers use to service the loan, send out those statements. If you call in, you have a question or you want to pay off or you're getting a refi, all of that is handled in Fundingo.
The one-stop shops. That's excellent. Yeah, that's great opportunity for you guys. So Henry, in the intro I mentioned, the Inc. 5000 honor and, top 5 SBA designation and small business lenders as clients, and top Canadian banks on board, with your product. So what's the milestone that you're the, most proud of so far?
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, when you say top Canadian banks, just to add to that, it's top Canadian and U.S. banks as well. We're obviously based in the U.S. and we have a lot of U.S. clients, majority, but we also hit top Canadian banks and we love that call out. The growth really came from focusing on solving a problem that we know best. I come from the space. A lot of the team comes from this space, understands, speaks fluent lending. Really, like I said, we're not technologists building a software for an industry called lending. We are more lending experts that are building a software that's really fit for purpose. And, we filled the need and continue to make sure that the awareness of it is growing. And as we grew as a company, we've been seeing incredible responses from our customers in being able to not only find new customers, but having customers refer new business. We have some channel partners. We have, web presence that bring, literally solve. People write keywords like, how do I solve this problem? And they see Fundingo solves that problem and they come to Fundingo. So we've been able to grow, get some awards along the way. And what I found, really interesting is, it's a staircase. One logo brings you to the next logo, and it also brings you to a higher caliber and a higher, larger deal, larger companies as you continue to deliver well. When you deliver well, it's you see the growth.
Well, I think that, again, I took a sneak peek at your website too, and I think that's a part of your core values, like your core systems there, right? At Fundingo is exceeding expectations. I'm paraphrasing it, but excellence and, teamwork and enjoying what you do. So it's impressive to see that. Coming from a Fortune 100 background, myself, you hear those words and where I had experience before, we actually live those words. So it says a lot when you put it out there for everybody to see. I mean, that's what you're holding up. That's your banner, so to speak, right? And people know that those are your values. So it just kind of like struck a chord with me when you mentioned that. So
yeah.
thank you for
No, that's a
sharing.
good callback to that. And and what's interesting is as industries shift and as the economies shift, the micro, macro, one thing sticks true and you stick to your core values, right? The product may change, the customer may change, the core values hasn't changed.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's going to be your North Star, so to speak, right? So that's super important. So Henry, we talked a little bit about what you're proud about. So what's the biggest challenge you've had to overcome as you built Fundingo, getting a seat at the table with, big lenders and all the billions that you guys have processed through your time there. What's the biggest challenge you've had to overcome?
Yeah, 100%. So I think I would say the challenge over the years has been around making short-term decisions versus long-term decisions. So very often you get, short-term gain for long-term pain or short-term pain for long-term gain. And as a smaller company, you can't always make those, short-term pain for long-term gain because you do have to get from point A to point B to point C. And sometimes you have to make decisions that aren't the best for the long term, but they're good for the short term. And that is obviously painful in the long term, right? And being able to go through this journey and showing and seeing over time we can make more decisions that are better long term versus just short term gain has been a huge change. So the challenge is that, we may have not taken on the best customer or the best, there were times where we maybe didn't put the best foot forward in certain things. And, we've learned from it and, continue to get better, but we felt that pain along the way. And thankfully today we have a much better team. We have a much better set of, we have a strong set of customers, as you're mentioning. Our product is far stronger. But over the years, when that was less, it was very strenuous to get from those different milestones.
So is there a moment you can think back? I mean, you don't have to call out names to clients or anything like that, but was there a moment that you just said, okay, this is it. We've got to, this is an inflection point. We've just got to make this major shift to, make sure our strategy, we're clicking with our strategy, or this is going to get us to the next level. Or were it a series of steps that you've taken?
Yeah. I think one of the big things is the use of consultants. I called up one of my earlier clients who's a friend too. I said, hey, how are you growing? How are you doing this? And he mentioned he hired like a fractional COO and it changed the world for him because as a small company, you're not going to be able to staff a management team at the caliber, at the level and for every seat in the house as a big company, right? So you have these gaps. And I think one of the big things is trying to find a way to bring in that discipline, bring in that excellence on a fractional level has been a huge inflection point because then your bar goes up, your level of expectation goes up, and the ability to, set certain internal SOPs or, processes or even team members at a level that you may have not been able to do on your own. That's really helped us get to the next level and continue to grow the company, and win bigger logos and have a bigger presence and be able to get from step 1 to 2 to 3 to 4.
Okay. Well, thanks for entertaining that question there. Is there a secret, sauce for what you guys in terms of growth and your strategy for customer acquisition? Is there a specific path that you guys have taken in that regard, or is it just word of mouth and networking, referrals, that type of thing?
Yeah, I mean, we've had a very strong web presence that allowed us to win customers that are looking for, solutions to the problems that we solve, and that's
Mhm.
been a huge driver of our customer acquisition, engine optimization, and presence on the right web presence. The other thing is our channel partners. We have, we work with some of the large channel partners that are they're the source of trust of our target customer. So when we align with them, we align with the customer, and that's helped a lot. And I think, once you solve, the last is, I think, being familiar with use cases. Once you solve one use case, you could solve that use case for multiple clients a lot better than anyone else could, right? So there is where that's also what has helped us once we get their foot in the door to be able to show relevancy has been a very big factor.
Right. It builds that trust, and you can expand your capabilities and the ability to help your clients. That's excellent.
Yeah. And I think we're also selling technology, but when you say we're selling technology, it's not just the technology, it's also the ability to activate that technology and the value they get from it. And that's more on the adoption side. So you mentioned North Star earlier. Just to add to that, our North Star as a company is the percentage of loans that are managed on the platform without any workarounds. When you have that North Star, you're not just selling a contract, and that, you're really focusing on making sure the lenders are really successful at adopting, and the software really sits there to help them and is not slowing them down. So when you go that extra mile, it really changes the entire, playing field and how we come to market. And I think customers, when they talk to us, they get that sense that we're going to not just sell them technology, we're actually going to bring that value.
Yeah, I saw that again on your website. One of the testimonials was how your company is very organized and everybody understood what they needed to do, and implementation was, flawless. So that's a great testament to what you guys are doing there at Fundingo.
Thank you.
So Henry, next question I want to ask you is, where is Fundingo headed? Like, what's the next move for you guys? What do you see going forward?
Yeah. So, there's no leader in the category when it comes to alternative lending. In fact, we were one of the first that pioneered the category of technology platform for alternative lending. That's an end-to-end system that takes you from the original application all the way to the full collection of the loan that is embedded in CRM. We're marching towards being the leader in that category, the household name. So when you think loan management for alternative lending, you're like, oh yeah, Fundingo, right? So that is where Fundingo is heading. What we're excited about is there's a lot happening in lending, including one very exciting one, which is decentralized lending, being able to get financing when you purchase a swimming pool, or when you purchase a boat, or when you purchase a golf cart. You get financing from the company that's selling you that boat, that's selling you that swimming pool or golf cart, being able to service that whole industry, and being able to, for Fundingo to be in household names. This is where we're marching towards.
That's interesting. And it brings back another thought of Arizona again, but I had to buy a new HVAC system for my home, and the company that installed it financed it for me. It was a third party. So is it a similar concept as that? Is you would get the third party financing, or through the company
Yes.
directly?
Yeah. Yeah. So we have both. You have third party financiers, and you have the company directly financing it. In many instances, the company themselves will see that as an extra revenue stream. So we're not, obviously, we're not the financing provider. Either we'll provide the lending operations tools to the financing company or to the actual manufacturer who's selling the product.
Just kind of ticking and tying everything. That totally makes sense to me. So Henry, you mentioned you weren't actually trained in SaaS or go to school for SaaS. Is that your company came out of a need, your knowledge of the space that you're in, excuse me, with Lindy, and you built a team that's delivered these products. Is there a component of AI embedded in any of this, or not? And how do you see AI impacting your industry or Fundingo in general?
Absolutely. So yeah, AI is a huge, huge player in all of it. And I'm actually coming out with a book on AI, for augmenting lending with AI. And the whole concept is really that lending is AI within a process like lending is not there to replace human judgment completely, right? It's there to augment and allow humans to make better decisions. There are industries where AI will completely replace it and allow agentic tools to run the entire journey. When you have you have regulations, you have governance, you have money that you're putting out on the streets. There's a human decision element, a human element that has to stay in it. But what AI is doing is giving the tools to make much better decisions faster, and aligns very, very clear with our mission statement in our company, what we do, right? We help lenders make better decisions faster. So we're doing AI in two categories. There's obviously AI internally at Fundingo. We're leveraging it across the organization, from sales to, I should say, even marketing, sales to delivery and customer success. Even our product team is all using AI tools like Claude Code and a whole slew of AI tools. But in the product itself, AI is being embedded in multiple areas. And because we're built on top of Salesforce, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. We're leveraging a lot of the AI capabilities that are native to the Salesforce platform to be able to, provide a chatbot to customers when they're applying, to be able to scrub PDF bank statements and other PDF documents that come in, to be able to communicate faster, better, make decisions, portfolio. So there's so much opportunity there, and we're excited to be the system of record for many lenders and be able to provide the innovation around AI to those lenders.
Excellent. Well, that's good news. I mean, I'm an AI buff myself, so that's quite pleasant to hear from your company's perspective. So Henry, my last question to you is, if you could change anything about, any 2 or 3 things about how things work in your industry or among lending, alternative lenders and technology, et cetera, what would they be?
Yeah. I mean, we're hoping to make a big impact, and what we see ahead of us is it's very easy to say yes to a loan applicant and say, yeah, sure. Here's $100,000. Here's $1 million. It's very difficult to get that back if you don't have the right steps in place, right? So when a lender grows very quickly, you always start asking what's going on with the health of their portfolio. So growing quickly by making better decisions, leveraging the right tools, so you're not only growing fast on the origination side, but you also have a healthy asset, a book of business on the portfolio side when it comes to collecting it. So I think with the better tools, there's going to be better performance, which allows lenders to have more liquidity to put more on the streets. And obviously, lending and financing is what makes the entire country go, and grow. And in all elements of life, there's financing, from buying a car to your home, from building a real estate property, and just all across. And we spoke a bunch of that as examples today. So it makes the economy grow. It makes the economy tick. And to be able to remove that friction and have healthier assets because you're making better decisions faster, that's a big thing we're excited about and looking to spearhead in the industry.
Well, Henry, this has been a fascinating conversation today. Thank you so much about sharing about your industry, the evolution of it, your evolution of Fundingo, your journey. And thanks for simplifying things and putting it in layman's terms so that, someone like I could understand what's going on in your business. So Henry, again, thank you so much for joining our podcast today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yes. And the final thing I wanted just to call out is, if somebody wanted to get a hold of you or find out more about your company, Henry, what's the best way for them to reach you?
Yeah, just to go to fundingo.com. You could see a lot about what we do. Reach out to us through the website or our LinkedIn page, Fundingo. And we'd love to connect and talk more and discuss what we're doing with other lenders and how we're helping the industry, and hear what you're up to. So yes, we'd love for everyone, whoever could benefit, to reach out, and we'd love to have a conversation.
Excellent. Well, again, thank you so much. And thank you, everyone. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you. Appreciate it.